I just wanted to get into the uncompromising mentality when it comes to the mindset of an antinatalist. There's really, when it comes to this topic, a multifaceted perspective that you can look to address and display to other people. That's why I can make really a topic about anything when it comes connected to this subject. But one interesting area of thought is the concept of uncompromised thought, the mentality of uncompromising essentially to anything. Again, with that multifaceted layer when it comes to the perspectives to antinatalism, they all are pretty much obviously similar grounded. But I kind of want to highlight the repulsion that I personally have when it comes to the mentality of people. And this is an innate mentality for most people, because again, most people procreate. So what I'm going to describe is by default innately associated to most people. I just see a poor mentality when it comes to their willingness to compromise. Hoodoo Goddess had a video recent posted about the concept behind settling. Anybody should be able to look at the concept behind settling and not prefer to have to be in that situation in the first place, to have to settle to begin with. The fact that that's even a reality. Of course, that's obviously here, so we're going to deal with it. But that concept of having to be within that it's not something that you would ideally compromise towards. So I believe personally, again, when it just comes to the concept, the idea, the message, everybody technically, if they're not, I just think it's silly, but everybody technically should be an antinatalist just by concept alone. Technically, there isn't a true definition of the term, but for what I see it, I basically define antinatalism as seeing that there is a negative ethical value towards procreation, assigning an unethical value towards procreation. I think that's a pretty reasonable definition. And again, what I try to harp on is people, they don't care about ethics, okay? People, they already eat meat. Most people, we eat meat. So already, we don't really engage in practical ethical practices that we could, even for our survival. You don't technically, so people, they don't engage in ethical manners foundationally within our civilization. Our civilization, within our morals that we uphold, they're not backed by ethics. So, again, just ideally speaking about the concept towards antinatalism, I believe everybody is, because essentially it comes with a uncompromised mentality, and everybody should have, ideally speaking, a uncompromised mentality. You don't want to go into a situation knowing that you need a compromise to a certain thing or a certain person, to have to settle with something that you rather not have to settle with. That's just brute honesty. If that's something that someone would rather say that, they would want to do that, then that's fine. But clearly that should not be the unanimous preferred position. At least, again, to me, I don't think any of the things I talk about is that far-fetched, but it comes down to these simple thought concepts. But when it gets concluded towards abstaining towards procreation, then people get, what the heck's going on? But it's founded upon these very basic rationalities that, we all technically agree upon, but for what it can lead to, just goes back to the principles. People aren't principled when it comes to many things, and when it comes to this, that's just showing, because that's the whole essentially problem when it comes to the imposition, the harm that procreation condones. So again, I believe everybody is an antinatalist in the sense that they should be able to see why it's unethical. Clearly that's the case. Even in just the terms of humanity, there's certain things that I don't think anybody should want to have to compromise in when it comes to certain jobs or just having to be within certain political avenues and having to deal with certain things, in those certain realms that, again, you can't really control when it comes to just the house that you may live in, the type of people, let alone the family that you get born into. I mean, there's so many things that you just have to deal with when it comes to the deck of cards that you've been dealt. So again, ideally speaking, no one should want to have to be forced into certain subsets. Ideally speaking, we all hold certain values, we hold certain ideals, but we have to inherently compromise those ideals to our reality and work within the systems that we have to work within. So it should be clear to see how it should be a bad thing to forfeit that idealism. We all know, of course, that whatever we would want to have happen isn't going to have happen, and that's okay ultimately. But the whole point is you shouldn't have to be put in that compromised position in the first place. No one should want to have to forfeit how they would want things to go about. Again, when it comes to it's not like whatever you would want to bring into existence or your certain experience is going to affect somebody. Nothing like that. But of course, just for your own personal life, I'm sure everybody listening to this, you have certain ideals, certain things that you might want to do, but you have to settle and compromise with certain realities because that's just life. So again, it's not cool to have to put that on somebody. Clearly, a lot of people are okay with having to settle with that because we have to be, essentially, if you want to be sane. So it doesn't really prove the point of, if you're, an antinatalist or whatever, you should just kill yourself. Well, no, not really. And it's just very ignorant. It just goes back to these ignorant mindsets of those that look to oppose. It just doesn't make sense. Again, we're just saying when it comes to the idea of it, it's really fucked up what's going on. Because you're in a subordinate position. It's just clear. You're in a compromised position. That's without a doubt. And again, just ideally, rationally speaking, ethically speaking, why would you put somebody in a subordinate position? That concept is so backwards. But that's what's going on. Everything that we do is being in a position of having to pretty much just go with the flow, essentially. There's things that we can do outside of nature's will and through our own will personally, but there's still that backbone of things that are just kind of inherently placed upon you as a burden. We can't really go around that. So with that, again, concept, when it comes to procreation, you're putting people in a subordinate position, having to compromise to whatever sets of realities that they've been imposed. They have certain predispositions that they can't, again, really do anything much about. So again, ethically speaking, it's foundationally a messed up thing for that to be imposed. It doesn't mean that people can't enjoy that compromised state, that reality. Yeah, you can make the most of it, sure. But, at the end of the day, you should be able to look yourself in the mirror and know your limitations, know your bondage, and know that should be the concept behind that is pretty messed up. Again, it's nothing crazy. It's really not. It's just being honest about yourself. This is a whole thing too with the compromise, settling. A lot of times we like to use these terms around things. I made a video about dating, relationships and stuff. But it's that same concept. You go into something and you want this sort of idea to be actualized in your reality. And that's just not the case. We already know that. That's why people pinpoint things like the dating realm to showcase that that's just not going to be the reality for most, if not people. So it's that concept, essentially, that concept of wanting a certain thing, but knowing that you can't necessarily guarantee that you're going to get it. So putting people in that uncertainty to have to deal with something that they ultimately didn't have to do in the first place, they never asked for, is pretty screwed up. Pretty screwed up. And I just think it's a rich mentality to be uncompromised to reality. I think that just goes hand in hand with antinatalism. You see things and you're just saying essentially no, that you won't go by that, you won't stand by that, and you hold a ground. People should be able to hold a ground at things, and there's too many things for me to try to defend in this world. No, I wouldn't want to defend crime. That doesn't make sense. So it kind of goes to the concept of enlightenment. Ultimately, for me, I see the true concept of enlightenment is getting above the reality to this nature, to this existence, getting above this life, seeing the light per se in you. So why would you cling to this world when ultimately you're just trying to be at peace, is ultimately rest. I don't personally, I don't see the need to do certain things or this, that, or the other. Ultimately, I just want to feel at rest. So if that's, again, somebody from me with my mentality, why would I look to impose this state? You can look to, gain that rest state of being, but you have to work for that. And all this unnecessary toil, it doesn't make sense to have to place someone in that position if that's the ultimate goal. And that should be the ultimate goal for people. I don't, when it comes to terms like happiness, joy, all this, ultimately it's just being fulfilled within your own self. And if it's this internalization that we're all seeking at the end of the day, it doesn't make yourself really sensible to place yourself, other people, in compromised, settling modes of being. No, I don't have to be in this, reality. It's a waste. It doesn't make sense. So with that uncompromised mentality, I see it that it goes hand in hand with enlightenment. It's just getting above this world, and just having a mentality that's more than this world. People can be in compromised states. That's fine. That's what we're all doing right now. But if you can't understand how that's foundationally a screwed up thing to place on somebody, and that's essentially what it comes down to with procreation. That's why when I see people look to defend this, fine. But I find that it's pretty much being in a cuckold position, pretty much a bunch of cucks, because you're defending something that really is the only thing you got. And so you're looking to relish as much as you can within that position. But it's not necessarily a preferred position because you're looking to compromise everywhere you go. So that's what it comes down to. And I'm just not looking to have that mentality. That mentality is low. It's not preferred. Why would you want to do something that you don't prefer to do? So that's just what it comes down to at the end of the day. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple once you can see what it is for what it is. Many people, I don't want to say NPCs, but, they're cool with this and that's whatever. But clearly, if there's people that would have preferred not, if this was an invitation, I would have passed, then clearly, imposing such a thing, birth and death, whatever's in between it, is a pretty screwed up process. And that's just the facts. That's just the facts. You can feel one way or the other, but if you're not able to grasp, to understand this, I just say that's, again, really, I always say it's just telling, very telling, because you're pretty much a cuck, and then you don't want to admit it. And then when somebody doesn't want to be a cuck and they're telling you why they don't want to be a cuck, you're arguing against that. It's just weird. If you don't, feel what I'm saying, then that's fine. Then this isn't for you. But I don't think it's very far-fetched. It should be honestly a concept, a mentality, a mindset that many people should hold to, have a certain reservation, because that's what we all want. We want what we want. So clearly when something with what you want comes at the cost of somebody else, just, again, these simple concepts is fucked up. So with that, Thank you.